Hello, Olga. It's so great to have you today.
Hi, Svetlana. Thank you for inviting.
It's my honor. I remember we first met, we were introduced to each other as startup founders, living in the Bay Area, working on our companies. And our first ever conversation was about about startups, how to grow a startup, how to raise funds. I think that's the majority of conversations that people are having in the Silicon Valley.
Yes.
Yeah, but then I noticed that you were openly sharing about your own journey of dealing with a burnout, dealing with depression, and I was so drawn to that because that's such a very real side of building and achieving, but people don't talk about it. This part stays silent, even though so many people are going through similar struggles. So, when did you realize that achievements became a coping strategy for you?
So actually, not long ago, have to admit, I've been build like a small recap. Been building startups for about 13 years, today it's my second company that we've built together with my husband, and as a high achiever, like best university programs that existed in my hometown in Siberia, then moving to St. Petersburg, best European program in management, and then building companies. And there were always signs, I have to say, that something is wrong. But you just learn to neglect these signs.
Yeah. So, as you were achieving and going for more, you were already noticing that there are signs that something is off. You were just ignoring them.
Your body gives you signs,
Yeah.
your mind, your feelings, but you just learn to neglect them. You learn to keep going. That's, a strategy for many people. And I have to say, I just again, a small recap. I had a COVID in 2022. We moved to the US 2020, and we were invited to an acceleration program here in Silicon Valley, and we started a company here from scratch. And then in 2022, I had COVID, and after that, depression hit, and
Mm.
lots of other problems like complete insomnia, anxiety, etc. And when you ask me, like, when I realized all my life was a coping strategy, like not that long ago, working with my therapist, I realized that it's not that I was ambitious, it's that ambition was a coping strategy.
I see. So what do you think this coping strategy of achieving more and more gave you as you were growing up and as you were building your companies?
Well, no one likes or wants to talk about their childhood, but I think there is some roots are coming from there. So I think I was brought up in emotional abuse and neglect, and I think it was like some people choose to, I don't know, do drugs,
Yeah.
others drink. My choice was to kind of dive into achievement, dive into studying, learning, I don't know, achieving diplomas, degrees, and then that path moved to achieving something else in real life. Again, someone will tell, "Oh, it's a great strategy. It's better than drinking or I don't know, taking drugs." But I think it also has its own results, I would say. So we can debate if it's a good strategy, if it's healthy or not. I think it helps you um, cope with pain in general. Cope with pain, with bad feelings, with the need to face reality and maybe somehow process it. So I'm not saying every achiever is like that. I'm saying that some people choose that as a strategy.
And it's so interesting. It's a paradox that from the outside, it looks like you're so successful. You are great at this, you're great at that. And it's really hard to figure out how the person is actually feeling while being so successful to the outside world. Yeah, I think I personally hit this, like my personal bottom, when I had two children and the startup. And from the outside, I was hearing only, how do you do all of this? This is so amazing. You're a public speaker, you're a startup founder. While internally, I was so disconnected from what I want myself, how I feel. It's like a way of, yeah, just as you said, a way of coping and focusing on something to stay disconnected from what is actually not working.
Yeah, and I think social environment, social networks
Hmm.
add a lot to that because me and you are the same age, and our after teenage era coincide with
Hmm.
social networks. And in these networks, you see these pictures,
Yeah,
images of people who achieve these and that, etc, but you never know what's happening behind the curtains, and you it makes you anxious. Oh, I haven't achieved that, she made that, why can't I do that, etc, etc. So I think
I
it's awful.
know. Yeah, the social networks, they're only showing one side of things. It's like a highlight of all the successes. It is very, very disconnected. And the fact that we see only only the positive, the successful part is very unhealthy. So when you realize that achievement strategy is no longer working for you, how did it happen and how did it feel?
Well, actually, in my case, everything was so bad in terms of my own ability to, I don't know, to analyze and make right decisions, that only illness could stop me. It's very actually sad to say so, but I'm always saying that my illness was a curse and a blessing, because I couldn't stop. Like, there were so many signs already. I burned out and I can't do anymore what I do, at least at the same pace. That, maybe I have to make some changes in my life, but I wasn't able to see these signs. And it just at some point I stopped functioning, like literally. I could not wake up and go to kitchen and make breakfast, like physically. I didn't sleep all night. I had racing heart, headaches, and etc. Lots of dizziness. So, like, I just physically became invalid, so to say, for at
So your
least half a
body just
year.
refused
So,
to continue living your life as you taught it to.
yeah. Like, yeah, functioning the same way was not an option anymore. Lots of tears about that, like lots of fear. What's going on? Am I dying?
Yeah.
What was my thought? Uh, Very common thought for me at that time. So unfortunately, in my case, only an illness was able to stop me. And then already when I stopped and I realized that I probably will not be back to normal in years, this thought wasn't didn't come to me immediately. I was in a Stanford emergency room twice. I was like, what's going on? At some point, I had to admit that what's going on is gonna be here for some very long time. And that's when I started learning to live a new life.
So it took you to accept your own situation, that it will take a while to actually start getting better.
Yeah. Accepting is hard.
Yeah, yeah. So, what was happening around you at that time? Do you feel like people in your life understood what was happening to you?
It's a tough question because I also immigrated 2 years before that, and I kind of was building everything from scratch. But there were, of course, people around me here, and some of them were back home. I would say all of them, most of them
Okay,
supported me, definitely. But I have to say that it doesn't matter how much people support you if inside yourself you have these inner voices that are telling you that you are a loser, you are a failure, uh, you have not achieved anything, etc., etc., and you see these signs everywhere.
totally. Yeah, so your inner critical voice was louder than the support that you received from people around you. Did you encounter any misunderstanding? I know that in our culture, I'm also from Siberia, mental health is not taken seriously enough, I would say. Did you had any of the experiences where people just couldn't understand that something important and serious is happening to you?
So when I realized, I remember it was Wednesday, and I realized I cry and cry and cry, and I can't stop, and there is
Mm-hmm.
no obvious reason. I realized
Okay.
it's depression. And in 5 minutes, I was in the car, and my husband was like, Olga, come on. I mean, it's just maybe, period. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
get into the car. Urgent, urgent care. Give me medication. I was very proactive. I didn't care what people think, say, etc. I was very proactive. I would say part of my family in Siberia, my father's side, people there think if you went and saw a psychiatrist,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God,
That's the end
you
of the
know,
world. Something
it's
is
it's
not going to be fixed.
it's a taboo, etc. And I honestly, like in our conversation, this topic is usually just never discussed. Even like they ask me, "How do you feel?" etc., but like
Mm-hmm.
no specifics. And I'm fine with that. I don't really care. Like I knew from the beginning
Right.
what I'm doing.
Yeah, this is actually very profound that you were proactive, and it almost sounds like your lifetime of striving for achievements allowed you to be proactive and be a really good advocate of your own needs when you felt that something is off. Do you think these two are connected?
Again, as my therapist says, Olga, you are a fighter. I think in general, maybe being brought up in some hardship made me a fighter, and it helped me to create a strategy. I tried
Mhm.
everything I could. At some point, my psychiatrist was like, Olga, there is this new approach called TMS, that it's a mask on your head. I was like, I'm in. And I was doing that
Okay.
for 2 years. I went to a group therapy for a month every day from 9 to 4:30. You see a group of people, like
Yeah.
I did everything I could to help
Yeah.
myself.
So you mentioned group therapy. Can you tell me how specifically being in a group of people has helped you at that stage?
So I would say I came there quite late in terms of that I was not already in very deep crisis. I would say the hardest part was to actually show up. Uh, and of course, first time you drive there, you're like, oh my God, I'm at the bottom
Yeah.
of everything.
Okay. Who were the people
Yeah,
sitting around you?
it was mostly
Mhm.
depressed people, and actually these were
Oh,
normal people. Couple of them were coming from
wow.
tech companies, like yes, like Facebook, Meta,
So
Instagram,
just normal
Google.
people who we meet on the street.
Yeah, I mean, all of them were normal people, even
Mm-hmm.
not high achievers. Like them had depression. So all different kinds of absolutely
Mm-hmm.
normal people. Uh, there was a father of two young, very young kids that had a very
Uh-huh.
small difference, and of course he was burnt out. And can you, not a mother, a father, there were different
Yeah.
things.
So that's so interesting that like you resisted group therapy for a while, thinking that there are going to be like people, some different kind of people, judgmental kind of people, and you ended up being in a group of like normal people who are dealing with life struggles at work, at home. What helped you start talking about your experience publicly?
I've never was afraid of saying publicly that
Mm-hmm.
something is wrong with me, or I don't know, I'm not perfect, or I'm dealing with something, etc. So I'm not actually, and also because when I had all that was happening in my life, and I have a very good friend from Siberia, and she had two kids, and we talked rarely. And then at some point we have a call, and I tell her that my story, and she's like, Olga, from your Instagram, I would
Mm-hmm.
never say something
Mm-hmm.
is going on. Like, what? And it's just, and I would say I've never tried to hide or something. So, and that's what makes me sad. And, me and you, we have daughters, and they will at some point become teenagers, etc. And they already grow up in time where Instagram will be in their life in teenage age, which was
Yeah.
not the case for us. The picture there of not
Mm-hmm.
realistic lives, I think it's awful. So I've never had a problem. I always wanted to share to help someone that is going through the same
Yeah. So
thing.
you saw that the reality is so disconnected from your own experience. And you thought about how your daughter would perceive the reality as she is growing up. And that's what motivated you to be open about your story. Yeah, I think that's actually, it takes a lot of courage, but it is so helpful and so needed to open up a side of the story that stays hidden for many people. Yeah, I'm convinced that all of us are struggling with something, especially people in the Bay Area, such a high pressure environment. But as you said, you open Instagrams and everyone is just successful. Behind the scenes, how many therapy sessions, how many struggles, just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And how would you say you relate to your own achievements and to rest now?
So achievement is a very controversial topic, especially when you live
Mm-hmm.
in Bay Area. It's quite hard to acknowledge your achievements. So I would say, on my way to recovery, I had to do several things. I had to, first of all, admit and acknowledge that I did achieve a
Mm-hmm.
lot. I even worked with my therapist. She gave me a task to use a piece of wood or something and make
Oh,
stitches there of everything I
wow.
made in life. Like,
Like
and we would
visualizing
discuss
what
that. So I
you
would make,
actually achieved in your own life. I like
I passed a great GMAT exam and was accepted in St. Petersburg University. Okay,
achievement.
and so I worked on that part when you take these achievements and you make them part of you and you make yourself proud of that. But I also realized that what I valued and what was a way of living for me 10 years ago is not valuable anymore. And that was very hard because apart from losing sleep and good mood, I
Yeah.
lost identity. So there was a huge identity crisis when I realized that whatever I've been doing since I was, I don't know, 15 till 34 doesn't make any sense.
Your identity was so tightly connected to your achievements that losing this ability to use the achievement strategy, realizing that it's not sustainable, left you with no identity at that point.
Yeah. And so I had to rebuild, and I'm still doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not done. And maybe that's the actually the lifelong process. At some point, I realized that actually, if I want one thing in life to be
Mm-hmm.
achieved, just one, it will be to make my daughter's childhood a different childhood than I had. It's an achievement I want to,
Yeah.
go for. For now, for me, that's kind of,
Kind of your North Star. Yeah. And yeah, I can
yeah,
totally understand how powerful this can be as a motivation. And it also requires, first of all, work on yourself. When you become a person more connected to
yeah.
yourself, so your child can, they feel that. They are not listening to what we say, they are looking at us.
They copy everything, yeah. So,
Yeah.
and again, that's not socially approved thing, I have to say. You will never see, oh, actually, she raised two kids. You will see, oh, she raised 10 million. You don't get external approval.
Yes, yes, you are right. Yeah, that's kind of an expectation that if you are a woman,
Yeah, of
you have
course, everyone
you get married at some point, you have children, you raise your children, whatever it takes. No one is interested to hear what it took for you, but the successes are outside. They are in your corporate roles, they are in your startup achievements, and kids they just come as a like a side part of your life. And we as women internalize that too, and we tend to downplay our own achievements when it comes to raising children and taking care of the family. We take it as, oh, it's nothing, it's just life, but I didn't raise the round, but I didn't achieve any roles. Yeah, very real. So to wrap up our conversation today, which I think was very important and would help a lot of people, what do you think people listening to that podcast episode would feel less alone in?
Well, definitely people who struggle with mental health problems might um, get something out of it. First of all, that self-help and in external help of all professionals possible is okay. People who don't really have mental health problems, but they feel like there is burnout from social pressure, from pressure that they have to be this and that. They might start thinking that life is actually amazing. That's what made me fight. I still love life, and I think that life is given to enjoy it. And if you are in a role or in a place that does not really feel well, but is socially approved, I don't know, is it a
Mm-hmm.
good life? I'm not I'm not sure. So it's just maybe some
Yeah,
food for thought.
listen to yourself and understand what is working for you rather than to what society is telling you life should look like. I think this is a very meaningful takeaway for me from this conversation. Thank you once again.